Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me, Miss Thamae? Is that how we pronounce your surname? Thamae or Thamae?
I can hear you, Advocate Ntsebeza. Thank you.
How do we pronounce your surname?
I don't know. Somehow you are breaking there. I missed something unstable.
I saw very loudly and clearly. I don't know why, but I was asking.
I think I can hear you now.
Maybe it was the mask. I was asking how one pronounces your surname.
Thamae. How do we
That?
Thamae.
Not to offend you, how do we say it? Do we say Thamae or Thami? Or how do we pronounce it?
Thamae.
Thamae. Good. Thank you, sister.
We are going to ask Advocate Nele to administer either the oath or the affirmation. Ms. Nele?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Zola.
Did you hear? Did you hear Ms. Nele?
Can you hear me?
Has she not muted herself?
Okay. Zola, are you going to take an oath or are you going to affirm? Yes. Can you hear us?
Guys, what's going on?
Is there... Zola, can you hear me?
Only now I can hear a little bit.
I don't know. It shouldn't be a little bit.
It's from her side. Zola, can you hear us?
She's lost connection.
Where is she from?
Hi, Zola. Can you hear us better now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to know whether you're going to take an oath or you're going to affirm.
Affirmation.
Thank you. Zola, do you swear that the evidence that you're about to give...
She says she's going to affirm.
Oh, she's going to affirm. Oh, you're going to affirm. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Zola, do you affirm that the evidence that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If that is so, please raise your right hand on camera and say, "So I affirm."
So I affirm.
Thank you.
You have now been admitted as a participant in the SJN proceedings. Thank you.
Yes, Zola, I don't know whether you have had an opportunity to consult with the evidence leaders or Mr. Sandile July, but in any event, I believe that you do have a submission that you made to which you are going to be talking. And that being so, I would invite you to let us have the benefit of what you want to say by way of a submission.
Over to you.
Thank you, Advocate Ntsebeza. For those who do not know me, my name is Zola Thamae, and I was born and bred in Port Elizabeth. I taught at Cowan High School, a very, very vibrant school when it comes to sport activities. I started being engaged in women's cricket round about 1995, and I served on the structures of cricket. But to be precise with this submission, I then was appointed as a manager for the Protea ladies from 2004 to 2009. And I take this opportunity and appreciate the fact that you have invited me to make the submission. And I did say it is very humbling and yet very emotional thinking about the years back where you wanted even to forget some of the things that took place during those years. Or maybe those are the things that perhaps made us to be stronger in taking punches and say, this one, it shall pass, it's nothing. Now, if I talk to my submission to you, Advocate, in terms of remuneration or stipend, there was never something like remuneration for ladies, not at all. So what we will be given will be a meal allowance. It's only meal allowance. And when you are given meal allowance, you are given meal allowance during the time that at the hotel, you are not going to get any meal. So then you can go out, especially not on the playing days, then you will get that meal allowance. So that was the way of us getting some money. I remember I would carry large sum cash, going overseas that I will be given before leaving the country. At that stage, there was nothing like perhaps you will use a Visa card that other side or each and every player or the management team will be in a position to use their own Visa card and stuff like that. Their monies will be loaded on that. There was nothing like that. I would carry these large sum amounts with me, be it it's $1, it's £1, or a euro. I will carry those. I was very fortunate that there was never theft that took place or I misplaced money, and everything will be accounted for. So that was very risky at that stage, to travel around with hard cash like that one. But that was what we were doing at that stage. For players, I would perhaps, upon arrival at the destination, whatever country where we were going, I would look, for envelopes. If I didn't have some stationery with me, I would take some, so that once I arrive, I'll then try and allocate each and everyone's money in an envelope. And then I will start, calling them one by one to say, yes, your meal allowance, and this is how things are going to be done. So other players were comfortable to say, can I please leave my cash with you? I will only take it perhaps when we go out, or when I need it as a player when we go out. So I will do that as well. Going to a tour before my time, Caroline was one of the players and was one of the sort of administrators that would love to be with the team. Amy Connolly was the manager at some stage before me. With them, it was a bit different in the sense that they would not be given a full amount, allowed for them to go overseas in terms of flight tickets and stuff. They will have to pay a portion of amount in order to go there. But with us, at least the flights were paid for, the tour was 100% paid for by Cricket South Africa, as there was no sponsor at that stage. So it meant that players must sacrifice on their side, look for annual leave. Others were not given that, that special leave as a sports person representing your country. Some companies, they did not want that. You needed to choose between going on tour or losing your job, or you needed to choose going on tour and then it's work, no pay. It's no work, no pay. So others will choose that I want to go and represent my country, then I'll rather forfeit, my pay. And we will try and, talk to the powers that be. And the person that I was close to reporting to was Joan Edwards, who since then resigned. But Miss Joan Edwards was reporting to Mr. Max Jodwan. So everything that was being done for women's cricket, Mr. Max was totally responsible. So when we come back, players would urge that because they have lost their salaries for the period that we have left, perhaps we have gone on tour for a month, and prior to that, you will probably have a camp, a 2 weeks camp, or 1 week camp, or 2 weeks camp, and then you go on tour. So they will lose their salaries, and then we will have to make submissions and try that at least people get some little bit of remuneration there for the work that they have lost because they went on tour. And terms have changed definitely, because there were no contracts then. There was no one that was known as being semi-professional and stuff like that. There were no sponsors, as it is, the case now. There's sponsors, there are contracts in place. People can get work and be remunerated for that. There was nothing of that sort at that time. Let's say players have been selected to come and play for the national team. That was the duty of a union or an affiliate. I will make an example. 2 players. One, Nzunzu. Nolubabalo Nzunzu was from Border. So Border was responsible for her traveling, whether she will be coming from a village going to East London to go in and practice there. Border will have to see to finish that Nolu Babalo is being transported. It had difficulties because the unions themselves, the people that were responsible, it's not that perhaps maybe they were not keen. They will always flag the fact that financial constraints, we don't have budget for this. This was not under our budget code, item code. People will struggle.
Can I just interrupt? Can I just interrupt here? And I just want for the record to spell into the record Nolu Babalo Nzuzo. Nolu Babalo is Nolubabalo. Nolu Babalo. Nzuzo is Nzuzo.
NDZ.
Is it NDZ?
NDZU. NDZU.
Oh, Nzunzo.
Nzunzu. NDZU at the end again.
Okay. NDZU.
Correct.
Yeah, whilst I...
You?
Okay. Yeah. Whilst I have you, I would like you to remember before you end your testimony, to give us an account of your involvement with cricket before you became a manager. In other words, it will be interesting for me to get a round picture of Sis Nolubabalo, of Sis Zola. How did you have an interest in cricket as a sporting coach? When was this that you became interested in this sporting coach? Where did this interest originate? What attracted you to it? In other words, I would like to get to know, before you became manager, what you did and what your links and connections to cricket. Or if you just came to cricket because there was an advertisement for a manager, then you said, okay, I'm coming. I have got managerial skills. I will do it. But that would be interesting for purposes of my appreciation of the context in which I should understand, what arises from your submission. in this social justice and nation building project. But I leave it to you, but I just want you to make sure that you don't end without giving us an idea of just who Zola is. Who is this Zola? You know, without, you know, who was she before she became a manager in the Protea Sporting Code in cricket?
Over to you.
Thank you, Advocate. As I was saying, that the unions will be responsible for players that have been selected to play at for the national team. And the unions will differ in how they treat their players. I will give you an example. I was not a manager then, but I will give you an example of what happened in the Free State. We have a player by the name of Class, who was selected to play for the national team. Class is coming from a township by the name of Botshabelo, which is 55 kilometers away from Bloemfontein. They were scouted through the hub activities. Now, as Class was selected to the national team, residing in Botshabelo, where there were no fields for her to practice, it meant that Masabata Class will need to travel from Botshabelo to Bloemfontein in order for her to access the training fields, whether it's an indoor or it's a middle, but she will need to travel. So what Free State has done was to say, let us allocate funds for Masabata to assist her. That started like buying a bus ticket for her for days to come to Bloemfontein to commute all the time. And then it became at times that perhaps she will go back late, and then we are afraid of her safety. And then someone was allocated to drive Masabata, and then it was not Masabata alone, and to take few girls from that side to come and practice in Bloemfontein. So that's how Free State managed, you know, to avail their resources for the player, so that the player can be in a position to fulfill her dreams. Let's go to accommodation when we went abroad. I remember in 2007, we went to the Netherlands, in Holland. The rooms there, the hotels, they are so small. And we were always sharing rooms. You know, players were always sharing a room. So I will have to do a rooming list, and they will have to sleep two in a room. Now, with those smaller nyana rooms, you have two players in there. They have two luggages in there. They are luggage bag, and then they have coffins. The coffins which is having an equipment there, and their attire. Now you couldn't put the luggage there, and also put a coffin. It was impossible. So you'll have to look, you know, for a storeroom, and a storeroom is too small, and then you have to leave your luggage in a trailer or in a bus, and then in the morning, then you replenish whatever that you needed to take. So the only luxury was for the team management, that they did not share the rooms. And at that stage, we were only three. It was the coach, the manager, and the assistant manager. We did not have any luxury of having a physio, a biokinetist, someone will do massages, a video analyst. At that stage, nothing. It was just the three of us. So what used to happen there, before we leave the country, during the camp, we will have a physio on site. And I would look at what the physio is doing, because I know on the other side of the country, I will have to help the coach as a manager and be a physio of some sort. We will have our first aid bag replenished by the doctor in South Africa before we leave. Anything that perhaps we run short of, I was not in a position at times to look for a physio or a doctor that side. I will have to sit to finish and go to a chemist. I had a number of sort of a crash course. If a person presents with these symptoms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like it is now with the COVID, if you present with headache and diarrhea and shortness of breath, this is what you must do. So I had kind of something like that. And I will be sort of a physio, a doctor. And I was a mom because I was keeping their money. I was a manager, you know, doing all those things. So for accommodation-wise, we wouldn't even at times have a conference room where we'll do our team selection. Then we'll have to look for a bigger room and go there, you know, team management, a captain and a vice captain, and do our selection. And then for team announcement, a day before, we will perhaps, if there is a conference room, it's a plus for us. If there's no conference room, we'll just stay behind from dinner, and then we extend that dinner into a team meeting. So that's how we were doing things when we were outside the country. Now, when we were traveling, this accommodation thing, when we were traveling and you have to connect, you're going to another country, and that connecting period is like 5 to 7, 8 hours. There was no hotel booked for us. We will sleep at on the floor at the airport or at the benches there. We will sleep there, and others will look at the luggage whilst others are sleeping, others are awake, are playing games, trying to look at what is at the airport, doing a sightseeing at the window shopping at the airport. But there will be designated people who will be looking at the luggage. And these ones, when they are back at time slot, these others can go, but also they're going on groups. No one could go alone. So we were sort of streetwise as well in terms of that. But there was no accommodation because funds were always a problem for us. They were not permitting for us to sleep there. Imagine then sleeping on the floor, and then you go to that Boeing where you will also, sit there because it's not a first class or anything like that. Then you just tilt your chair a little bit, and there are other two players next to you. Then one will lean over the other's shoulder, and so on. But that was not an issue, as long as players managed to travel. That was exciting for them. Don't think that we will not come back and write a report and make recommendations, especially about this connecting issue, to say it's a little bit difficult, Imagine Heathrow, it's a very big airport. This team, they are sleeping on the floor, and the securities at times will come and say, no, you're not supposed to sleep in here and stuff like that. And we'll navigate through that up until it's time for us to check in and board. When it comes to equipment and attire that was given to the ladies, of course, it was not the same amount as the men, but it was just maybe enough for us, maybe 2 shirts and 2 trousers for them to be in a position to change. We will not even before we can go to the camp, we will take measurements, for people to say, okay, this one is a small, is a medium, or precise measurements of a size 30, a size 32, given to the supplier. But I promise you, the equipment, the attire, the clothing, for some reason, it was always late. It was always late, and it was always oversizes. All those small ones, we will be in the big t-shirt sizes, or their trousers are so long that I would look for a sewer, somebody who, a seamstress who can assist us before we leave. So that was almost every time when we have to leave. The equipment is late, is oversizes, and all of that. So we'll have to struggle and look for people around, that can try and fix it before we leave the country. And then as a mother, I will carry some needles and, some threads so that I know what's going to happen. And the scissors, just cut it and then sew it around, and then it's fine, go and play.
Can I interrupt here, Sis Zola? Can I just take you back to where you were, to your testimony about what would happen at the airports, and particularly Heathrow. Now, in the circumstances you have described, was there an opportunity for you to be able to go take a bath? And if so, where would this be? And how, in the circumstances you have described, would you do that? And obviously, I would like to know what year you are talking about when this was happening, or what years.
To be precise, the year I'm referring to is 2007, when we went to Netherlands, and also then we went to England. If we are during that time that we have to connect, so that maybe 5 hours at the airport, between 5 approximately to 8 hours, then we will use the bathrooms in there. We will use the bathrooms, and we will look out, for each other to say, let's get in there. Maybe there is no security around, or the people that are cleaning that will say, no, you do not need to wash in here. And what we'll do, there is these bathrooms that are meant for, the moms, the parents with little kids, where they can change their kids. That one, you can come in there, get in there and lock if you are 3, and no one will see that you are actually, trying to refresh. So those were the tactics that we were doing at the time, in order to be fresh. And even boarding off the flight, you will go to the bathroom and do likewise. And then when you were there, maybe for 2-3 hours, then you look for that mom's bathroom, which was very handy for us. This is how we used to do things.
You did not use the facilities that are usually provided at airports like Heathrow. where you can go and have a shower, or separately from washrooms or toilets or of the nature.
Remember, you can only access that when you have, checked in. Then you can access that. But if your connecting flight is 5 hours, 6 hours in between, you are not in a position to access that area, And at that stage, remember, we were not privileged enough to have, not anyone can go to that area you are referring to. It's not everyone. You must have had a certain card, certain points, then you'll be in a position to go to that area. So we were not privileged to go to that area, and that area you can only access it when you have actually boarded, checked in. So that was the situation then.
Thank you.
And I did allude to the fact that the team contingent at that stage were only 3 people: the coach, the manager, and the assistant coach. And then as the year went by, then we at least had to choose between a physio and a video analyst. And the coach would say, I would think I must have a video analyst so that I can see where the problems are. And then after maybe a year or 2, then there was a physio. So then at least we had a physio and a video analyst. So things progressed from there.
Were you aware, or are you in a position to tell us what conditions or did your counterparts or your white managers, if that is what happened whilst you were a manager, were they also having to wait in the manner in which you said you had to wait, or do you know?
I think my situation seemed so bad, but it was better than their situation, because they even needed to pay out of their own kitties. So my situation was a little bit better than their situation. I did mention the fact that the clothing will at times come very late, to be dispatched and delivered to us very late. There was one time when we left and the clothing did not arrive. And we were promised that by the time we arrived, we will receive the clothing. I think that year we went to Australia, if I'm not mistaken, for a World Cup there. Before you play any competition, the matches, when you have before you play the actual competition, there are warm-up matches that are being arranged as per the schedule. So these warm-up matches were arranged, and the kits haven't yet arrived for South African players to play in a kit. That stage I had, because I was promised, no, it's gonna be there are delays and wherever. And, in any organization, there's protocol. Before you can speak to the CEO, you must speak to, the person whom your supervisor that you are reporting to. But for me, I was seeing that nothing is like happening here, and I'm afraid I cannot wait any longer. I'm playing the next day. I do not have a kit. And at that stage, the CEO was Mr. Gerald Majola. And then I called him to say, if it's possible for you to phone the CEO in England to organize us a kit from a club so that at least we look representative. And that was done. And I think it was, I'm not sure the name of the club, but we were assisted. We played in those people's attire, the club attire. And then at least we looked, like a team that contest and play. Those were the challenges, then. Those.
Was there any explanation as to why you didn't have a kit?
It was not yet delivered. It was delayed for some reason. It was delayed. But at least just before the first official match, then the kit arrived. So it was delayed from the service provider at that stage. Those were the explanation that we will get. But at the end of the day, it arrived just before we played the first match. All those things will, the morale of people will be low. Then you will have to be a kind of some psychologist to uplift the players, to say, look at the bigger picture. It is here now, let us not dwell on what happened before. It was not here and it's here now. Whether it's long pants, we do what we do best. We have a scissor, you cut them, you take a thread and you sew it. And then it's fine, and then we play. So you try to be a mother, a psychologist, and try your best and motivate the players to look at the bigger picture. So that was the scenario then. Now, if I look at where we came from and looking at what is happening now, girls and women's cricket, there was no academy in place during those years, whereas now there are, academies and they are functional, and people, will be called to form part of the academy. Then there were no salaries, no stipends, and now there are salaries, because there are contracts in place, of which we are grateful for. At that stage, there was a women's association and a structure of which I belong to. I will give you an advocate because you requested to say who is Zola, what made you to have an interest, in cricket, and before perhaps you were the manager. What were you before? What were you doing? Those structures to say this is a structure for only women's cricket were abolished for whatever reason, to say, no, there must be only one structure, not women and what. But those structures were in a position to advance, the needs of women at that stage. There were no sponsors at the time. There are sponsors now. Very limited resources, even in terms of technology at that stage. But now there's advanced technology and digital resources that even the players that are using. There were no job opportunities back then for ladies to say, come and coach this team. There was nothing of that sort. And currently now, at least there are women provincial coaches. Other women can even do commentary. So it's not like there is no improvement. There is. Back then, there were very limited or few tournaments or leagues. And now, at least there's strength versus strength leagues. More cricket is being played than before, even though we would like to see that maybe there's a national under 16 team league that is happening, and not start only girls under 19 and then go to a senior. there was limited funding allocation generally for women, very limited. And when you try and make submissions for funding for whatever reason, you will always be reminded that ladies' cricket, women's cricket is not generating any income. It's only the men's cricket that is generating income. That was always the statement when you try and say, can we get some funding? That was the statement that women's cricket is not selling any cricket for us to the sponsors. We're not making any money. Instead, it's sort of we milking the money that is being made from the men's side. That was always the story explanation that we were given at that stage. Now, I think I'm done with the submission that I've given to you. And I don't know whether are there any questions now, or must I now continue as to how did it come that I was involved in cricket?
Well, I don't know, Advocate Male, do you have any questions you want to put to?
All right. Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much, Zola, for your submissions. I think my question really seeks to understand whether you and the female players ever approached Cricket SA to maybe ask for some compensation or restitution for those years, because I did understand from yesterday's submissions from Advocate Orange that there was some transformation fund that was made available, or that was available with Cricket South Africa. So I just want to understand that whether you ever applied, to get relief from that fund for the years where players made use of money from their own pockets for tours and so forth.
All right, the transformation fund that was there, that was not the fund that you can access, for lost remuneration or anything like that. That was meant for the provinces, for their teams from perhaps under 11, under 13, all of those ranks that they needed to make proposals to say, we are going to do this, so they must make their submissions. Then they will scrutinize their submissions and perhaps allocate some money for that. But it was not money that one can access as an individual for that. No, it was only meant, for the structures, for the advancement of cricket within the areas where people are. For an example, if I'm saying transport, there are players that, they reside in the location and they need to access transport in order to come and practice where facilities are, because facilities in townships were and are still a challenge even today. So that funding was for such, request, not for individuals to say, I've lost income or I've worked here without any, appreciation and stuff like that. It was not meant for that. There was a criteria for that, and this one was none of it.
No, thank you for clarifying that. Then my last question, really, I just want to understand, like in your opinion, whether it's still the view that ladies cricket isn't generating income, or whether that has now changed. Whether that has now changed when there are requests for funding. Is there a bit of a change when say managers now request for funding for women's sport, or is it still the view or still the story that no, women's cricket doesn't generate funding or income? Sorry.
Let me give a little bit of a scenario. During the time of the CEO, Mr. Thabang Moure, Mr. Thabang Moure was somewhere overseas en route when the teams were playing overseas, the men and the women's team. They were playing overseas and they were en route to South Africa. He had an opportunity to chat with the women's captain, who then, tried and explained the way women's cricket is treated. Sleeping in pairs in a room was one of them. Not having accommodation during your connecting flight was one of them. And I remember in one of the meetings, Mr. Thabang Moure raised that he was not aware, because everything it's being administered in a certain way, within the ranks. Maybe the CEO would not be in a position to know that, people are sleeping in pairs, or they are not sleeping in single rooms, they're sleeping, on the floors when they have to connect. So when that was brought into his attention, he did something about it. It was discussed in one of the meetings, and people felt really ashamed and said, something must be done about it. It doesn't sit and augur well with how women are supposed to be treated. But it's like you must talk to certain individuals that will understand. Others won't even, debate as to say, we support this. People just keep quiet because for some reason, I don't know, that women issues were not advanced because people in power in numbers are men, and they decide perhaps to keep quiet. I do not know. And if you ask me now whether maybe people are paid better than it was before, I'm not too sure about it, but I still see a challenge in the fact that we just now had a Cricket South Africa board being announced, and there's only one lady there, just one lady in 2021. So I don't know what it means for women in this country. If in 2021, a board of directors of 13 people, there's only one woman there. So I am not sure if we are really making strides, or we are on a standing still. We say something else and then we do something else. Thank you, Fumisa.
Thank you, Zola. Chair.
What I would like...
As I continue, advocate with who I am, was I just appointed as a manager? Was I then maybe busy, engaged somewhere?
Yes.
I would like you to go into that area.
Thanks, sister.
Okay. When I came to Bloemfontein from Port Elizabeth, as an activist in sport, I looked for the structures. Then it was a national sports structure, a National Sports Council then, NSC. And I looked for the structures, I looked for the federation, and then I was still responsible for netball then. And we were then I was elected to be a member of the NSC and represent netball. During the meetings, may his soul rest in peace, Evie, Hansi Cronje's father, was a member of the NSC. And he approached me to say, I can see there's many of you in netball. We are looking at resuscitating women's and girls cricket in the country. I see you as one person who is eager to start and drive a project. Can you do that for us? Because I'm looking at how you are, dealing with issues within the NSC. And then I said, by no means, I won't say no. I will take the challenge. I've never played cricket. Then it means I must go to courses. I try to play for one day, and I try to be an umpire so that I can understand the game. And then for me, being an umpire, you stand for long hours. And then I decided, let me just rather be on the side of administration and look for girls and organize girls, go to schools, approach schools, form, these structures, do leagues and stuff like that. That's how I started. And then I was then the president of women's cricket in the Free State. And then I was a vice chairperson nationally.
What was this?
That was around 1996, from 1996 onwards. And then I never applied to be the manager of women's cricket. I was approached by the CEO then, Gerald Majola, to say, we are not going to advertise a post for women's cricket when we have seen that you have organized cricket in the country. So we are giving you the opportunity to be the manager for women's cricket. So that's how I became the manager for women's cricket. From me being an organizer of women's and girls cricket in the country as a whole, not just in the Free State, from 1996. Up until I was then going through the ranks, you will see that within a structure or a union, there will be a general council. The general council, then you will have, your president, your vice, your treasurer. You will have someone who's representing the umpires, someone who's representing the scorers, and then someone who's representing the junior high school, junior schools, and then the senior schools. And then there was amalgamation that we needed someone who will represent women's cricket into that general council. And in the Free State, it was me. Then that was introduced also nationally in the General Council to say we need to have, a woman representative within the General Council. And then I was then elected to be at that General Council as a woman. So I served there in that General Council, and at the same time serving under Free State. And then where years went by, to be precise now, fast forward 2013, where I've been a vice president in the Free State. Then, when you are a vice, you think that automatically you will be the president. But in the past, all those people that were vice president before me, they were never elevated to be the presidents. And I said, I wouldn't take up a vice president position. And then when it's time for me to be a president, and then we, somersault and say, this one is not ready. People will always must have something to say, no, this one is not ready. Now, when it was time, the president's period has elapsed, then we needed to have a new president. Remember, this is Free State. It's known to have so many white men leading traditionally in the sport. And when they said we have Zola as a vice president and Zola is going to lead us as a president, for me as well, and I said, ooh, now this reality is striking now. Can I really do this? I know I'm capable, you know, of talking to people and doing things. I'm a mover, I can do things, but am I really ready? The people then around me at that stage said, no, you can't lead us as a vice, and now you start asking if you are ready. You are ready. And the people around me at that stage were Leon Crowley, the CEO, Johan van Eerden. They say, no. You've been the vice. The structures are talking also. And there was a drive also within the country to say, you know, when we talk transformation, we must transform in so many ways. We have women that are engaged in women's cricket, but we don't see them in structures. Then I was then elected as a president for Free State Cricket Union, not women, Free State Cricket Union, the first black president that was elected. I remember we had, was it in the same year, 2013, there was a cricket in Daba, transformation in Daba. I remember one of the brothers from Gauteng say, yo, you've just been elected as a first black woman president. Where's in the Free State with white men? You won't last even 3 weeks. I mean, you won't last 3 months. I said, oh, no, thank you, you know, for saying that. I think you really, you know, not confident that I can make it. I thought you would say, good luck, my sister. You must know there are challenges of here and there. That 3 months of his went on to be 3 years. And after 3 years, I was also elected for another term, second term, which was another 3 years, serving as a president of Free State Cricket. And serving as a president in Free State Cricket, there was then a move that within Cricket South Africa, a board of directors, there are independent directors and non-independent directors. And then, you know, when people, there's going to be elections, looking at this and that, we don't have women, but we don't want you only as a woman. We want you because we know that you know the sport, you know your game, you know good governance, you can lead people, you can do things. Please raise up your hand because really we need women. And then on the side of the non-independent directors, I was then elected to serve Cricket South Africa, on Cricket South Africa board of directors. So this is who I am, Advocate Ntsebeza, the Iron Lady who has been amongst men for a very long period of time. And I respected so many people because they appreciated me for who I am. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you, Zola, because, and especially after having heard where you come from, and taking into account that you seized the moment when it was made available to you. You didn't pretend to have been a sportswoman who had played cricket. you rose to a challenge that needed a leader. And you made yourself available because the position called for a leader. And as a leader, you made it a point that you discharge that mandate. You said to yourself, if it needs somebody to come and show where we should go as a people, even in sporting codes like this one, in which I have no claim to having played or no claim to having managed, then I will raise my hand. And it should go to the credit of those people who approached you or who said to you, listen, don't tell us that you know nothing about cricket, because you took it upon yourself to fill a vacancy or a gap in a sporting code in your place, in your area, that needed guidance and leadership. And when you got into it, you got to know that there is more to this sporting code called cricket in its management that meets the eye. And being a child of the country called the Republic of South Africa, with a past of division and conflict, and an order that was called apartheid, that discriminated people unfairly on the basis of how they looked like, where they came from, what the color of their skin was. You rose to the occasion to say, I am part of a society in which I grew, where I experienced a change of society from one that was dictated to by a system that was unacceptable, so unacceptable that it was considered by the entire world, the entire international community, as a crime against humanity. You realize that wherever your skills were required, and you saw your skills in the same way that those who called upon you to take this managerial position, you saw yourself as lending a skill to this sporting game called cricket, in how it should be led, so that those who did not have a voice, and especially women, should have a voice. I'm sure you are familiar with what is said about black women, that they have been oppressed and continue to be oppressed in many ways than them just being either black, colored, or Indian. They are oppressed as females. We always marginalize them as a society, which is why Professor Andre Ordendal, for one of all the testimonies that we have had today, up to today, focused very intentionally on female cricket. And he kept on coming to this subject, that our focus should not just be on race and the impact of race on this cricketing code. It should also intentionally look at how gender discrimination played a part. And if we find during these testimonies that we are going through from the beginning of this week until we have concluded this project, that gender played a very unfair part in discriminating against females in any level or aspect of this sporting code called cricket, then the discharge of our mandate will fail if it does not do so. And it is for that reason that I have to say, whatever else we find, at this point I must, on behalf of all of us participating in this endeavor, thank you for having taken the time. Thank you for having applied your mind to what you thought this entire inquiry was all about. And thank you for coming. You know, we sometimes tend to take these things for granted. Yeah, well, you know, she wanted to talk about her past. But no one compels you. This is an inquiry that does not have, you know, the power of subpoena. It's not gazetted. People come here voluntarily. And I like the fact that you have come here not because you are looking at anything to gain. Think at the stage and station in life where you are at. This is something that you do because you feel it is the right thing to do, and there is no correct or right, more right a time for us and for the nation to listen to people like you than now. Because we tend to forget. People tend to forget where they come from. People tend to forget why they are where they are. And if anything has taught me in the experiences that I've had in being party, privileged to be party to commissions of inquiry like the Marikana Commission, for instance, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, is that we tend to forget It's the easiest thing for people to forget that if we don't remind ourselves about what happened in the past that should not have happened, it is the easiest thing for us to slip into that abyss and for us to repeat those things we said, never again should they happen. It's touching to hear stories like this, where you would go on an international travel and you'd have to sleep at the airports because your transfers would take hours on end for them to, but where you'd have to, at whatever age, where you'd have to take the kind of discomfort, where you'd have to devise ways and means of just taking an ordinary cleaning process by going to those ablution facilities where women with small children go to, so that you can just clean yourself. It speaks to how the dignity of our people have been systemically assaulted. This is about a system that did not think of the dignity of the people whom it affected. And we can't wish these things away. We need to talk about them, just so that they should disturb us every time we recall them. And those of us in our society who do not want us to talk about these things, I hope they will be persuaded that there is a purpose. There is no desire on the part of all of us who have thought that this is a worthwhile exercise, to just come because we will be on YouTube, or because we have nothing to do, or because we are being sensational. It offends, in fact, our intelligence for anyone to suggest that we are doing this simply because we want to be sensational. That is why we commit ourselves and those like you who come to take an affirmation or to say what they are going to say is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth. And those who don't believe that, they are entitled to their views and opinions. And if there is anything that they think has not been stated correctly, even as a historical account of what has happened, they are very free to come and put their position in the way they think they would be put. You have given this project the dignity that it deserves, simply by coming to talk about your experiences, lest we forget. I thank you very much for having afforded us the privilege to talk through you to the rest of the country, those who are privileged to watch these proceedings online, as I believe has been arranged. Go out there and continue to be who you are. Never change. Thank you.
Advocate, I just want to share something with you. In 2014, that you can even check on, if you go on Google and Google Zola Thamae 2014, I was nominated by the Ministry for Sports and Recreation, then the Sports Administrator of the Year 2014. And in my speech there, I did say, because people were always asking, how can you be in a sort of a managerial position in cricket when you have never played cricket? And my answer was, I've never heard of anyone who runs a mortuary who had to die first in order to be in a position to run the mortuary. You go and look for that clip 2014 on Google. Perhaps you can still find it. That's just my parting shot.
Well, on that parting shot, but not on that dying note. The proceedings are adjourned for the day. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.